Hi, welcome to the reading of Anansi and the Book of Night. We've reached chapter 5. I'm the author, RUBADIRI Victor, and let me catch you up thus far. So, Anansi the spider is investigating disappearances of animals in the kingdom. And it began with the disappearance of King Bat, and it spread to the kingdom of bees. Because of the disappearance of these two sets of animals, bats and bees, who pollinate flowers and fruits in the day and night, this was leading to the collapse of the forests. Fruits and stuff were going into shortage, animals were beginning to starve. However, Anansi began to notice one set of animals were getting fat whilst others were getting slim. She follows one of the fat animals, one of the members of the Council of Elders, Brer Hawk, to a secret meeting where she finds Tiger Cat at the center of a conspiracy to take the crown from Brer Lion. She follows Tiger Cat. Tiger Cat leads her to a shadow animal who he exchanges something in exchange for a whole set of vegetables and fruits in a cart drawn by some mysterious animals. Anansi then follows the shadow animal to a strange part of the forest, far away on the edge of a desert. There she sees all the missing animals being led from a shed in chains by bulls and a whole set of these shadow animals in cloaks where she can't see what animals they are, to this massive stone tower on the edge of the forest. In this stone tower, the doors close and Anansi can't see what's happening, and there's a flash of light, and when the doors open, the animals have all disappeared, leaving only outlines of their body on the ground as dust. Anansi is shocked, terrified. She cries. She runs upstairs to find out what's going on, and finds only a book encased in a steel kind of catchment in a room. She opens the book, and it's the Book of Night. The book inside of it shows Anansi a vision of who these shadow animals are, where she sees multiplying buildings and mathematics and physics, carpet covering entire planets, no forests, and animals in cages. She's terrified and she leaves there. She starts to head back to the kingdom, and this is where we pick up. So let's go. Anansi and the Book of Night, Chapter 5, The Old Man. Anansi was lost. She had found a tower by following the shadow animal, but it was not as if that journey had been a straight line. She had never been this way before, and the path led through many strange landscapes, precipices, canyons, riverbeds, and marshes, twisting and turning. She was now quite lost in the dark. Soon Anansi came upon a bridge that ran over a still river, and she heard the sound of someone crying. She searched for the source of the sound and soon came upon it. It was an old man in bushes by the side of the bridge. It was he who was crying. Anansi approached the old man and touched his shoulder and asked why he was so sad. The old man looked up at her and said with tears in his voice, "Good night, stranger. I've dropped a precious sword into the still river. It is very deep, and I cannot swim. The sword, although not valuable, was given to me by my grandfather, and to him by his grandfather before him, and so on, and so on. I do not want to be the one in my family that loses this precious heirloom." And with that, the old man started weeping again. Anansi knelt at the old man's side and said, "Grandfather, Take heart, I will retrieve your sword for you." The old man said, "The water here is very deep, and in places like this, who knows what lies under such still waters?" Anansi laughed and got up and said, "It's okay, grandfather. I will simply tell whatever I meet that I am only visiting and collecting something lost from above." Anansi then spoke to the river. "River, I am about to visit you." And before the old man could say anything else, Anansi dove into the still waters. Anansi descended in the cold. It was slightly murky, and the only light was that of the moon overhead. Soon, even that light began to disappear as Anansi descended deeper, deeper still. The river was much more deeper than it first appeared. Soon, Anansi was in total darkness. Soon, she could not tell what direction she was going, if she was sinking up or floating down. She just continued to move where the pressure felt the greatest. Soon, the water's pressure on her slender body was punishing. Just as she was about to consider turning back, Anansi's hands and feet touched the river's mushy bed. She was thankful. She stood on the river's bed in the darkness and fanned out her 8 limbs and began to search the muck and stones for the precious sword. Anansi kept this up in the darkness with only her hands to guide her for quite a while, until she finally felt something metallic. She felt along its body, and sure enough, the shape of a sword with what felt to be an elaborately carved handle and sheath revealed itself to her touch. She grasped the precious cargo with 2 of her hands and propelled herself back up to the surface with the rest of her limbs. Relieving the pressure as she went up, soon the darkness gave way to gloom, and gloom to moonlight through clear water. Soon, Anansi breached the surface with a gasp, saying, "I found it!" The old man looked up with his teary eyes. They lit up. "My blade!" Anansi clambered ashore and walked up to the old man and presented him with his treasure. "Here you go, grandfather. Strap it to yourself so that it does not fall off again." The old man's eyes were again full of tears. "Thank you very much, stranger. I thank you. My family thanks you." He took the sword in its case from Anansi and hugged it and then put it under his cloak. He was now smiling, a gap-toothed old man smile. Anansi smiled and spoke to the old man. "Well, grandfather, I must get on my way. You should be very careful here in these forests. There are unkind things lurking around." She turned to leave, but the old man's voice called out from behind her, "Wait, Spider! Allow me to repay you for your kind deed." Anansi turned and said, "No, sir, you don't owe me anything. Your thanks is enough." But the old man watched Anansi straight in her eyes and said, "I insist." And before she could say anything else, the old man reached down into his cloak and drew out an old dark blue woven sack. On it, Anansi could make out the woven Adinkra symbols Sesawo Suba. Anansi laughed and refused, saying, I didn't help you for reward, sir." But the old man smiled and implored Anansi a 3rd time. Anansi then accepted the sack. The old man said, "Open it." Anansi did. And in the sack was 7 gold eggs. She looked up at the old man, who smiled mischievously. "These are magic eggs," he said. Consume an egg, and you will be able to change shape into anything your mind can conceive, and then change back to your original form. You can only change form once per egg. He leaned into her with a glint in his eye. This is a serious power, Spider. Use it wisely. And he started to laugh, a wheezing old man laugh. Anansi watched the old man in marvel, then looked again at the eggs in the bag. She reached in and took one of the gold eggs out and held it up to the moonlight. It shone like a small, smooth sun. She put it back into the bag, slung the bag over her shoulder, and hugged the old man tightly. She was turning to leave when she turned back and asked him, "Grandpa, I am lost. Do you know the way to the kingdom of the animals?" The old man watched her and pointed to the sky. "Follow Polaris, the North Star. Trace it from the handle of the Big Dipper." And with that, Anansi thanked the old man and sprinted off in the direction of home.